What's up, everybody? It is the Site B Engine Worker here, back with episode one of season two of our long-awaited Site B Mode series. And this will be mainly a debriefing episode because obviously we're starting the first episode in our next season, our long-awaited season, as I just said. So we're going to kind of go over where we left off in season one, and I got a nice little area here picked out on Isla Sorna for us to explore. Of course, if you're new to this Site B Mode series, what we do is that I'm an engine worker. I've been working with the company of Engine for a few years now, and we spend all of season one basically picking locations on Isla Sorna where we explore the entire area. Of course, I talk a little bit, about the animals that's in the area, and we watch them in their natural habitats, and you'll learn a lot more of how season one went. How season one ended by watching this episode, because this episode will be about some of those biosyn animals that we collected from Biosyns Valley in that legal lawsuit that we won, and basically their well-being and how they're doing over here, over on Isla Sorna. So yes, everybody's been a long-awaited wait. We are finally back with episodes, and yeah, let's get started. I got our footage paused, so we're gonna get our footage going right quick. Okay. So, anyways, as I just said, this episode will be about Let me just turn my volume down just a little bit. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, that's a little bit better. So yeah, this episode will be about those animals that we've taken out of Biosense Valley and that we brought over here to Isla Sorna. We did that in the last two episodes of our Site B Mode series. I mean, of season one of our Site B Mode series. And as you guys know, the company of Engine was in a huge lawsuit with Biosyn, and of course we won that lawsuit for the simple fact that some of the animals that Biosyn had in their valley were animals that they stolen from us, the company of Engine. So that was one of the main reasons why we were able to win that lawsuit and take any animals that were in Biosense Valley and bring them over here to Isla Sorna. So I want to kind of spend this episode in this little area that I scoped out and narrow some of those Biosyn animals down. I want to spend this episode kind of viewing those animals in their natural ecosystems and habitats and see how they're thriving. So, anyways, right here we have some pachycephalosauruses. As you can see, we have some juveniles as well, and we have some. I was about to say some parents. I was combining adult and parents, but we have some adults, which are 9 times out of 10 the parents nearby. Um, Pachycephalosauruses are all over Isla Sorna, so I'm not surprised that they're the first species that we're bumping into. And if you guys have been paying attention to the channel, I did actually put out a quick video yesterday at the time of this recording, and it was going over the current population of species, well, the current species that are currently residing on Isla Sorna. And it was 58 species in total, but I did remember that I missed out on Majungasaurus, which was the last clone dinosaur that we successfully released into the wilds of Isla Sorna in the last episode of season one, and Moros trepidus. I probably butchered that name, but so yeah, 60 species in total as of right now. But anyways, we're going to keep exploring this area. We're actually coming across some little nests, but I'm not seeing the culprits behind those little nesting areas. And it's a little dark, but of course we got some of the highest tech embedded in our GoPro cameras, so everything will work out in terms of us spotting these animals and stuff. So we're going up this river stream. It's a bit quiet, but as I said, I picked this area out for our first episode for a reason, because this area is housing some of those species that we took off of took out of Biosyns Valley. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So here we have some Muttaburrasauruses. If you guys follow season one, you guys will remember that Muttaburrasaurus is an animal off of the new 2025 engine list, and they are doing extraordinary here on the Isla Sorna. They're not an animal that we got to constantly reclone or repopulate because their numbers aren't falling low. They're doing good in breeding, which is what we really want to see. That's the main thing when we repopulate. I mean, when we clone animals and release them into the wild, we want to make sure their numbers are doing extremely good. And as you can see, there's a bunch of juveniles here, like literally a bunch. They're basically they're basically clones of their parents. So we're gonna see what else is in this area. We're gonna come back to these juveniles in a bit. We're probably gonna have this episode, since it's the first episode, probably gonna have it be about 45 minutes. We have another packy, and this area is just very thick with vegetation. So trying to, if we got to circle, if we miss something, we'll definitely circle back because you never know what you might, miss or anything like that. Especially on Isla Sorna, it's just home to such a variety of species. So and because I basically picked out this area intentionally, I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything when okay, so right here we have a irritator. This appears to be, this is actually a female irritator. She's just I guess you can say sunbathing, or I guess you can just say bathing, since there's no, well, I guess you can say the sun is somewhat shining down on her. But the reason why I know this is a female, because the small crest that is above her skull is a little bit less prominent compared to the males here. Um, if you guys kept up with season one, you guys will know that the irritators, the Dinochirises, the Ostracothers, and the Hypsilophodons are animals that were scrapped. They weren't, their genomes weren't at 100% by the time we made the 2025 engine list. So they were animals that didn't make that 2025 engine list in time, but we ended up, still of course cloning them and releasing them into the wild in season one. So she's definitely a beautiful girl. I would definitely say she's fully grown. She shares this territory with Metabosaurus that we've seen earlier, and of course some of those Pachycephalosauruses that we just seen. And then, she really doesn't even have to come in direct contact with some of those Packies or anything like that, for the simple fact that she's a semi-aquatic animal, so she can feed on, fish life and semi-aquatic life anytime she wants. So that's the beautiful thing about our semi-aquatic animals here on the island. So we're probably going to come back to her. I'm surprised, not necessarily surprised, but I'm happy that we stumbled into her because, like I said, this area is just very thick with vegetation. So I wasn't necessarily sure what we were going to run into. Honestly, still not sure. You never know here on Isla Sorna. Anyways, I feel like we spent a significant amount of time in this area. Came across those. Thought I heard something. Came across the Packies, and I'm not really necessarily seeing anything else. So we're gonna go to that area where those Muttaburrasauruses were, and um, and then we're gonna make our way from there. I actually hear them uh roaring a little bit above these trees or over these trees. Yeah, this area is very thick with vegetation. Here's one of those Muttaburrasauruses. This probably is a female. Um, we got some more juveniles. Juveniles will always stay close to their parents, but as you can see, they'll 10 times out of 10 retreat into the thick vegetation, because obviously that's where they feel the most safest if they're not, directly up on their parents like that one just was before he took off. Seemed like they're actually spooked by something. I'm not sure what it could be though, but anyways, like I said, we spent enough time in this area. Let's go ahead and start making our way towards other little proximities in this little location. Well, not necessarily a little location, but other little proximities that we picked out here on Isla Sorna. Make sure that we're spotting everything. And of course, we will do some double backs of this location because, as I said, I picked this location for a reason because I'm 100% sure, that there are some Biosyn Valley animals in this little location here on Isla Sorna. So, anyways, we just stumbled upon some beautiful ankylosaurs. Honestly, this is the most I've seen, and usually if you guys follow, and we actually have a nest here, but if you guys follow season one of our Site BMO series, you guys will know that ankylosaurs don't usually stay in huge groups. So this is one, two, three, four, five, six. This is a male right here, and the ones with the red on their face, on the sides of their faces, is the female. So it's a beautiful thing to see that these guys are expanding their groups. For whatever the reason might be, I'm honestly unsure. They could feel unsafe by something. You honestly never know. I'm not sure what they could possibly feel unsafe by. Ankylosauruses are obviously one of our, heavily armored animals here on the Isla Sorna, so they won't necessarily, have too many. We have, is that a juvenile? Juvenile Murderosaurus? Like it was running from something, but I'm not entirely sure what could have been running from. But yeah, as I was saying, it's not really too many animals here that the ankylosaurus have to worry about, getting in, life-threatening combative situations with, especially with just how heavily armored they are. So I was just curious to see. There's another juvenile Murderosaurus. I was honestly curious to see where that one was, what that one could have been running from, or if it was spooked by anything. But I'm not seeing nothing, guys, and I don't mean to stay in this area constantly. But yeah, we're gonna start making our way back to where those ankylosaurs were at, and we're gonna go from there. And as I said, we're gonna do some doubling back, anyways. This is one of those areas here on Isla Sorna where you guys see how thick the vegetation is, even with our small GoPro camera. It's very, very easy for us to just miss things, which isn't a big deal. That's why we have about 45 minutes of recording time. So yeah, and just with season two starting up as of this episode, there's a lot of stuff in store, and I'm just excited because obviously season one ended 4 months ago, and I know everybody was ready for season two to start. So I definitely appreciate everybody's readiness. I'm pretty sure readiness is a word. But anyways, so let's see what we have over here. We're in a different little area. Keep thinking I'm seeing stuff running, but that's just the reflection of the sun off of the little puddles. So we appear to have a nest right here. We have some Parasaurolophus. So Parasaurolophus was actually on Biosyns Valley. I mean, in Biosyns Valley, and if you guys remember, Biosyns Parasaurolophus was actually a little bit different than Engine's Parasaurolophus, and I can actually give you guys a good example right here. So this is a Biosyn Parasaurolophus. You can tell by how thick the crest is and how thick the jaws and just the skull shape is overall. And the crest is actually a little bit longer as well compared to this is a engine bred Parasaurolophus. Now, since we have Biosyns Parasaurolophus on the island, on Isosorna, of course, they're now going to be breeding with each other. So we'll get a cross between Biosyns and our genetically cloned engine Parasaurolophus. And even though we were in a legal war with engine, doesn't mean, I mean, with Biosyn, it doesn't necessarily mean that, some of their creations were horrible creations, because that's definitely not the case at all. And this area, we only scratched the surface with what's in this this proximity here on Isla Sorna. So I'm excited to, show more of the area. So anyways, let's see what we got here. This is a beautiful Pteranodon, obviously. These guys are all over Isla Sorna as well. You usually see, we're trying to keep the camera still on him, but he won't stay still. But we usually see them more intermixing with the Dimorphodons, so I wouldn't be surprised if we come across some Dimorphodons soon. We're gonna go across the river. I figured, okay, so we have a Dimetrodon, and it might even be chasing that juvenile Parasaurolophus, but these Dimetrodons are not that fast. So the Dimetrodon was actually a Biosyn exclusive animal that we took from Biosyns Valley and brought over here to Sorna. So I'm super happy that we just stumbled across one, and it 10 times out of 10 was chasing this juvenile Parasaurolophus that probably got split away from her group. But she's definitely a lot faster than this Dimetrodon. Um, these Dimetrodons are not an animal that could, keep up great speeds for a long time. So I'm hoping that this Dimetrodon lead us to some more. He probably just tried to catch his rest right quick before he starts trying to chase this juvenile Parasaurolophus again. But if you guys remember from Biosyns Valley when we came across the Dimetrodon, they are actually semi-aquatic animals as well. And as you can see, the chase is happening again, and we have the okay, so this Dimetrodon just knocked this juvenile Parasaurolophus down, and we have the mother Parasaurolophus here, and he didn't finish the job, and it's probably because he got spooked by the parent Parasaurolophus here. So I don't know if he's going to finish the job or not, but the mother is running off, so that definitely makes this juvenile very vulnerable. And there's another Dimetrodon. Okay, so is this... It might have just killed this Parasaurolophus, guys. Yes, this juvenile... Oh, wait, no, she survived. Okay, so this Parasaurolophus is definitely a trooper. As you guys know, when stuff like this play out on Isla Sorna, it's not up to us to get involved with this kind of stuff. You know, we only get involved if a certain species get extremely low in numbers, and then that's when, of course, we start to repopulate them. But this juvenile Parasaurolophus, as you can see, is very wounded, which is why it couldn't run that second time it got knocked down, and it is definitely dead now. So we have this Dimetrodon that just killed this juvenile Parasaurolophus, and we actually did see another Dimetrodon. Here she is. So that kind of surprises me because, as I just said, our Dimetrodons are semi-aquatic animals, which adds to the population of semi-aquatic animals here on Isla Sorna. So it could be that fish is not as plentiful. It could be that they're... Well, fish is always plentiful here on Isla Sorna. It could just simply be that they were hunting easy prey on land, like those juvenile Parasaurolophus, or they were spooked by something. So it's really hard to say. But anyways, we're going to continue down this beautiful river stream, guys, and we're just going to take a moment to appreciate some of the beautiful sceneries. I mean, the beautiful scenery here on Isla Sorna with our beautiful mountains in the background and our beautiful vegetation. And I think that's just one of my favorite things about working with the company of Engine is to be able to see all of these things in the flesh and stuff, and of course document all of these things. So this is another one of our pteranodons taking flight. She appeared to be, well, I thought she was hunting at first, but she's a fish eater as well. So of course she'll hunt fish when needed. This seems to be a makeshift nest, and I say makeshift because of course one of the animals here on Isla Sorna had to have made it. Now, as far as what animal made it, I am unsure. I can't really tell, and the nest seems to be vacant. But you can tell a lot of work was put into it, and you'll see on Sorna a lot of our animals kind of make similar nests. It's just in their genomes to kind of make nests in similar ways. So anyways, we have more Parasaurolophus here. This is our engine version, our engine variant, and then this is our there's another Parasaurolophus. This is one of the Biosyn ones, and of course, we're super excited to see these guys intermix. Continue down this beautiful river stream and see what we... Okay, guys, so I think we might have the answer to why our Dimetrodons was hunting on land. We have a family group of baryonyx, a family group of baryonyx here. There's probably one alpha male. Well, actually, no, it's... Okay, so it's a single couple with about 3 juveniles. And I've probably said it before numerous times, but you know, baryonyx is one of my favorite semi-aquatic animals here on Isla Sorna, and they make up a large, you know, in terms of our semi-aquatic animals, you will see them just about everywhere in all of our river streams. And of course, they're able to travel large distances in large bodies of waters to cover a lot of ground here on Isla Sorna. So, and here's some of those little juveniles. They'll grow into more physical defined traits as they get older and mature, of course. And they won't really venture too far off from mom and dad. You know, we've seen in season 1 that some of our baryonyxes also tend to stay in large groups where you'll have one breeding pair and a couple of other adults. But, you know, if I'm not mistaken, all of these juveniles seem to be from this one pair. So this could explain why that Dimetrodon was hunting on land. Could feel a little bit he could feel a little bit intimidated hunting alongside these baryonyx, but as you can see, the juvenile might have just missed its feeding frenzy. But I thought I'd point out something a little interesting. If you go over here, you can see we have a little deck coming off the river, the little deck and walkway, and we actually have a little campsite set up. Sometimes we'll set up camps and we'll watch our animals, but we're never disturbing their peace. And of course, we're always taking, a lot of safety precautions and stuff like that. But you won't see this a lot in Isa Sorna. Back in the old engine days, there were a lot of base of operations set up, a lot of old, nasty, beat up buildings. So you'll see this very rarely, and we'll only do this in we'll only set up certain camps and stuff like that in very calming, relaxing areas here on Isla Sorna. And I can't overemphasize enough, like I did in season one, on how huge Isla Sorna is. That's how we're able to house 60 species and counting. So, and that's 60 species, not including the population of each of those species. So, yeah. So, anyways, let's see what else is in this proximity. I think we're gonna make our way down this river stream. And so I wanted to go back that way, but we're just gonna continue to head down the stream this way and see what else we might come in contact with. Um, you honestly never know, and that's my favorite thing about doing this site beat mode series is that see the shadow reflection of don't mean to give anybody a headache, but I just seen the shadow reflection. It looked like a pteranodon from off the rock, but I'm not sure. Anyways, let's continue. But yeah, that's some of my favorite things about this Site B mode series is that you honestly never know what you can come in contact with. You never know what you might stumble across, and that's just what makes this, obviously all the more fun doing this series. And this location, as I said, I picked it for a reason. We're bound to stumble across something really, really soon. And I wanted this episode to kind of be a follow. I wanted the first episode in season two to kind of be a follow up on some of those animals and bios. I mean that we taken off of Biosyns Valley. So here we have some Dinokyruses. We have. Let me just get an aerial shot. One, two, three. I thought we just okay, four. So we have two pair. I mean, we have a two. Well, yeah, we have a mom and a dad, two adults, and we have two children as well. And for those that didn't watch season one, Dinochirus is an animal that was off of the X engine 2025 engine list, and I say X 2025 engine list because they were part of the animals that did not make the cut in time. But of course, we wanted to do these animals justice by releasing them anyways. As you guys already know, we don't have too many semi-aquatic animals here on Isla Sorna, and we are working on that because, that's just something that we're working on. But, our rivers are not only made up of baryonyx, suchomimus, spinosaurus, and irritators, but they also are made up of Dinochirises as well. And of course, they can feed on a lot of plant life and vegetation, and they can also feed on, fish life as well. Well, I guess you can say marine life. So these are some of my animals that we've cloned, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I seen it out of my peripheral vision. This is a nest here. Yep. So these guys have probably been living here for a little while now because those juveniles aren't big, but they are a decent size to where you can see if they were to go into the nest, they would definitely be overcrowded. So it just goes to show that they have been residing here for a little while now, which I'm not surprised because this area here on Isla Sorna is very, very subtle. I wanted it to be a more subtle area for season two, for the first episode of season two, because I wanted this episode to be more so of a debriefing kind of episode. So, anyways, we'll probably, like I said, we got to do a double back of everything. We'll probably come back to that little area with with those dinocaruses. I just want to continue in our proximity and see what else we can come in contact with because this area is housing a lot of the animals that we've took from Biosyns Valley. So and I know a lot of people were wondering about the well-being of those animals. And speaking of those animals, we actually have the largest animal that was in Biosyns Valley, the largest carnivore that is. This is the Giganotosaurus, so I'm super stoked out to finally have the Giganotosaurus here on the Isla Sorna. That this is an animal that we had the genome of for a while, because for those that followed the events of Jurassic World, and for those that got to visit the park before it's shut down and learn about the Indominus Rex, you guys will know that the Indominus had Giganotosaurus DNA in its genome. So and as you guys can see, when we were back in season one, when we were on Biosyns Valley, there was only one Giganotosaurus. So we actually, in that little break, that I guess I won't say little break, because you guys were definitely asking when will I be back, so it did feel like forever, I'm not gonna lie. But within that time between season one and season two, we took the DNA from the individual Giganotosaurus, and of course we did some cloning, so there are more Giganotosaurus on Isla Sorna now, which is a good thing. And as you can see, this is a mother with her child, and she might be a little irritated with her child, because she kind of just spooked her child off. So this excites me a lot. As far as large carnivores go, we now have Giganotosaurus, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Spinosaurus, and Acrocanthosaurus, if I'm not mistaken. That's four large carnivores here on Isla Sorna. So and they'll these guys will come up with their own territories, and of course, how big Isla Sorna is, they'll be able to venture out and seek out their own territories and establish dominance in their own ecosystem. So, and this is the first, this is the first juvenile Giganotosaurus that you guys are seeing. As you can see, him taking a rest with his mom, and not sure where the father is. Could be somewhere hunting. She probably recently gave birth not too long ago, but I'm gonna say it's definitely been a minute, because a lot of our animals here on Isla Sorna, a lot of our juvenile animals, once they're born, they do struggle with the ability to walk. But as you can see, this little guy is walking just fine. So we might come back to this group, this Giganotosaurus family, because I did just see some stuff in the background. We actually have a nest right here. This is a similar nest to the one that we seen in the area where the Baryonyx group was. So we actually have some Dreadnoughtus. So Dreadnoughtus was the largest animal that we took out of Biosyns Valley, and well, one of the largest. What we also have Brachiosauruses in Biosyns Valley. So but it was definitely one of the largest. But as you guys can see, they are absolutely thriving in this little area, and it just makes sense to me now why that Giganotosaurus and her child, her juvenile, is here. You could stalk some of these Dreadnoughtus, and of course, one lone Giganotosaurus probably would not be able to take down, a fully grown adult Dreadnoughtus. But as you can see, there are juveniles around, which would definitely be easy prey for her and her baby. So I'm super excited to have come across, another animal that we took in from Biosyns Valley. And as you can see, these Dreadnoughtus are literally all over the place. So I'll be happy as we explore more of season two to see if they are intermixing with our Patago Titans, or our Myrmenchi or even our Brachiosaurus, because they weren't intermixing in season two of our. They weren't intermixing in season one of our Site B mode when we seen them for the first time in Biosyns Valley. They were completely different areas. So, but anyway, so yeah, now it makes sense why these this mother Giganotosaurus and her juvenile is in this area. Yes, she could be where the Ankylosauruses are, or where those Muttaburasauruses were earlier, but why not stay here where you could possibly stalk and take down um, some juvenile um, Dreadnoughtus. So, anyways, we're gonna watch her movements for a minute, because she is appearing to be. I don't know. We're just gonna have to watch and see what happens, guys. She is appearing to give off stalker vibes. So she could be getting ready to try and attempt to take down one of the fully grown adults. or she could be trying to seek out one of those juveniles. And as you can see, the juvenile is indeed panicking along with the adult dreadnoughtus. But those dreadnoughtuses are no pushovers. They'll do what they can to keep the juvenile dreadnoughtus in the midst of the in the middle of the groups. But it's up to those dreadnoughtus juveniles to follow their parents. And we have her son, her baby juvenile, following right behind her, of course, learning from mom. And I'm still not seeing another Giganotosaurus, which could mean that she's a lone hunter. She's a lone parent. Isa Sorna is very vast, so it's no telling what could have happened to her mate. So I'm just trying to hang out. There she goes again, kind of socializing with her juvie. Just trying to hang out to see, is she about to... Okay, so she appears to be taking off and she's heading after the juvenile. And she just knocked this juvenile dreadnoughtus down, so she probably interacted with her juvenile, with her son, to let him know to kind of hang back a little bit because she was about to engage in a hunt. Now, of course, she did what most carnivores do here on Isla Sorna. She knocked that juvenile dreadnoughtus down, but she did not go for the final blow. And she appears to be taking a rest. So, I don't know where her juvenile went. Since this is their territory, she probably could have sent him back to wherever, to what, whatever area it is that he hides at if, trouble arises. So that was very interesting to document. We're going to see how wounded this juvenile dreadnoughtus is. That's why it's very important for these guys to stay in the midst of the herd, because even though the adult dreadnoughtuses were panicking, they still will put their children first, which is, I guess you could say, motherhood in a sense here on Isla Sorna. So we have our juvenile Giganotosaurus coming out of its hiding place and catching back up with his mom. And the mom is heading off again. We're about to see what's about to happen. She appears to be stalking one of the adults. And we have her child right behind her. Like I said, she appears to be stalking one of the adults. She could be sizing the adult up, maybe trying to debate if it's worth trying to take it down or if she wants to go for one of the juveniles. And as you can see, she is attempting to bring down one of the adult dreadnoughtus. Now, will that be enough to break this dreadnoughtus down? Yes. So we just seen one of our first kills here in season 2 of our Site B mode series. We seen one of our newly large carnivores that we got from Biosyns Valley take down a fully grown dreadnoughtus, which is extremely interesting because though she could have easily went for the juvenile, she went for the adult. And if she goes uncontested for this meal, this could feed her and her juvenile for months on end. So, and as far as where her juvenile went, I'm entirely unsure. But I'm glad we got to witness that, guys. That's kind of why I want to linger around, because I figured a hunt was 10 times out of 10 about to take place. So anyways, we're going to see what we have here. We have some Nasutoceratops, and we actually have a juvenile Dreadnoughtus intermixing with them. So Nasutoceratops is another animal that was taken right from Biosyns Valley, and of course we have it here on Isla Sorna now, and we'll be able to see it intermix with our Trikes, our Styracosauruses, and that's in our Lokiceratops. So that's something I'm super excited about. So we have a bunch of adults, and now we have the mother Giganotosaurus. You can see her keel way in the background on that Dreadnoughtus. We have the, okay, so I thought she was stalking one of the Lokiceratops now, and you can see her son in the back. So this is definitely their territory, and you can tell they are more than comfortable. I mean, they have Dreadnoughtuses to pick off of. Nasutoceratops if she's feeling pretty bold, but she, that would be a little bit more harder for her to take down. So mainly because, it's a defense type of animal. So, of course it has those horns and stuff. So anyways, we're going to go across this little this water source, and we have our juveniles, our juvenile Nasutoceratops. So this is pretty interesting. They have the juvenile separated kind of in the back, away from the adults. So the adults are definitely aware of the Giganotosaurus. Obviously, how couldn't they be when she's right there, right in line of sight? And they have the juveniles in the background hiding. So I thought that was pretty interesting. We've documented Triceratops in season one of our Site B mode, and we've seen the Trikes keep the juvies with them at all times. So this could obviously, it could help these juveniles, but in a way, it still definitely makes them extremely vulnerable. So, anyways, we're going to continue. We're going to go up this little rock here and see what else we could possibly have in the area. I'm so glad we got that hunt, guys, between that Giganotosaurus and that Dreadnoughtus. That was definitely super exciting to watch. And I figured something was about to happen because the way she was looking, it looked like she was looking to, maybe stalk something. So, okay, we have another animal from Biosyns Valley. This is the Therizinosaurus. And, this is why I told you guys that I scoped this area out, to be the first area that we visit in episode 1 of season 2 for a reason. And that's because I wanted to kind of get a show you guys, or kind of get a status check of these biosyn animals because most of season one is spent, without these animals. And then the last 2 episodes or last 3 episodes, we bring these animals over to Sorna. So I know a lot of you guys were dying to see how these animals were doing. And of course, not all of them are in this area, but a great majority of them are. And of course, a lot of them are spread out over Sorna as well. So I'm not seeing any other Therizinosaurus in this area. And if I didn't say it before, when we came across Therizinosaurus in season one, they are very solitary animals. So I'm not surprised that she's not. And this is a female. I'm not surprised that she's not intermixing with those Dreadnoughtuses or the Pseudoceratops. And of course, if she was, then that would put her into direct competition with that Giganotosaurus. Doesn't mean the Giganotosaurus would try to attack her because, of course, it is very aware. Same thing within the Pseudoceratops. It's fully aware of the outcome that could possibly, the outcome of that battle. We lost her. Where did she go? We just seen her. I don't know where we lost her to, but yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that there aren't any other Therizinosaurus because though they are solitary, we did come across 2, I think, in one area when we were back in Biosyns Valley. So if I'm not mistaken, there's looking to be only one Therizinosaurus. You never know. It's what I always say. You never know on Sorna where things could be, hiding, or not even necessarily hiding, but just it's a reason why I always do double checks of our proximities that we explore because you truly just never know what you might come in contact with. And that's just one of my favorite things about showcasing this footage for you guys. You just never know what you might run into. But anyways, yeah, that Therizinosaurus does seem to be by herself, which I'm not surprised. She probably traveled some extreme lengths to be able to seek out her own territory away from just I guess you can say just other animals, to quite simply put it. So, anyways, we're going to continue. We're going to take our camera a little bit above this rock. Well, I guess you can say, yeah, I guess you can say a little bit above this rock, and we're going to see what else we can possibly come in contact with. We definitely got our GoPro camera extremely high up now. So, wow, it's just beautiful looking at these waterfalls from a distance, man. So I'm definitely hearing something roar. We're gonna figure out what that noise is. Because as I always say, you just never know what you could stumble across. You never know here on Sorna, especially with all these new animals that we got just lingering around the island that we took them from Biosyns Valley. Okay, so yep, so here we have some Quetzalcoatlus. As you guys know, these are the biggest. These guys are extremely huge, way bigger than Thanatos Dragons, which are Ash Darkians that were already on the island. And of course, we took these guys from Biosyns Valley. So, like I said, it was a reason why I wanted to come to this area, and that's because um, you can see them feeding. But that's because I knew some of Biosyn's animals were kind of seeking out their own territories. That it honestly happened pretty quick once we got some of these animals on the island. Some of Biosyn's animals on the island. They started seeking out their own territories rather fast. And it doesn't really surprise me because they were already in their own established territories back in Biosyn's Valley. So this thing is a very amazing creature to look at. Just very beautiful in all aspects. We're happy to have it on Isla Sorna, and it just goes back to what I said earlier. Though we were in legal confrontations with Biosyn, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything that they created was just horrible. They created some beautiful stuff that we're happy to add into, our everyday ecosystems here on Isla Sorna. So, anyways, we're getting ready to draw this episode to a close. We have some iguanodons. This is another animal that was ripped straight from Biosyns Valley, and it currently resides here on Isla Sorna now. And we have some juveniles as well. And iguanodons are going to be very, very good additions to the island. So we're definitely happy to have them here. As far as how many there is, um, honestly not sure because they are one of those animals that tends to stay in large groups, but I think it really just depends because it may just depends on how many predators could be in the area, which we haven't come across a lot. So just trying to see if there could possibly be um any more yeah, no, I'm not seeing any more iguanodons. So it's possible that in this area it's just only a few, which of course, nothing's wrong with that. I just, I knew there were some iguanodons here earlier. I just didn't know how many there were. But I'm glad we did stumble across them. And as I said in the beginning of this episode, guys, this some more. This little area is, I mean, this area is thick with vegetation. Oh, we actually have some hypsilophodons as well, which I'm not surprised. They're obviously seeking refuge amongst, the larger iguanodons, which is definitely, something good to do once if you're their size. And we actually have another makeshift nest in the background. So as you can see, a lot of our animals have been bred to kind of. Oh, do we have? Okay, so we have a dead iguanodon here, and we have a juvenile Albertosaurus. So if you guys remember when we showed off how Engine clones his animals, we came across, I showed you guys in one of our Engine breeding facilities that the Albertosaurus was a newly cloned animal soon to be released on Isla Sorna. But at the time, it was only a juvenile. So obviously, this juvenile Albertosaurus did not bring down a fully grown iguanodon. So that could only mean maybe he'll lead us back to some parents. I think we might have lost him. Oh, dang. He could. Okay, here we are. Here we are. So we have, and if I'm not mistaken, dang, we just missed. So this appears to be, yep, a fully grown Albertosaurus, and it just knocked down a juvenile iguanodon, and that's probably the parent of that iguanodon right there. And it's probably not going to continue chasing it for the simple fact that there's a carcass not too far by for it to feed on. But yeah, so I'm super, super, super excited that we just came across an Albertosaurus, and we have more iguanodons in the back. But it just goes to show that, once we placed them out on Isla Sorna, obviously once they grew to maturity, they immediately started to breed, which is what we definitely wanted to see. It's a shame that we did miss a hunt take place, because obviously no juvenile Albertosaurus took down a fully grown iguanodon, but with these guys now residing on Isla Sorna, we're bound to bump into these guys, at any time. So, anyways, we're gonna get ready to draw this episode to a close. There is one more thing that I would love to show you guys, and I'm going to explain it all as I get ready to show it to you guys, showcase it to you guys. So we have here a makeshift water source, and as you can see already is a mosasaurus. So as you guys know, and forgive me for the water quality down here, guys, it's not showing well on our GoPro camera. But as you guys know, I'm just going to kind of show this thing off a little bit more. Mosasaurus was one of the animals that was featured in the Jurassic World theme park when it was a running park. But as I've explained plenty times in season one, it is our job, being the company of Engine, at one point cloning was illegal. But now that we can clone and we've been granted access to clone our own animals, we are also responsible for taking part and recapturing any animals that got loose onto the mainland that was too close to human life. And of course, this mosasaurus was a huge threat to human life. And the water quality, guys, down here is horrible. So please forgive me for that. We'll probably improve our GoPro cameras later in the future to, improve this feature where we can see that better. But anyways, we could have, let the mosasaurus live its days out in the seas of Isla Sorna, the surrounding seas, but every time it's in anything, any large bodies of water, it seems to always make its way back to human life. So now we have, you'll see it in other parts of the island here in season two, but we have makeshift water sources set up for the large mosasaurus. So yeah, I was happy to showcase that to you guys because if you guys been following, some of the Dino Tracker news that you guys, of course, can follow on YouTube, you guys will know that a lot of animals got into, the hands of a lot of shady people after the eruption of Isla Nublar. So, anyways, as we get ready to close this episode out, I do have one little area here. And as you can see, we have a Spinosaurus. So this area houses three individual Spinosaurus. And as you guys can already tell, as far as this area here on Isla Sorna, because Isla Sorna is extremely huge, but as far as this area, it is home to, as far as this area, the two largest carnivores in this area is the Giganotosaurus and, of course, our Spinosauruses that we have here. But I think the interesting part about this little area that the Spinosauruses are in, we're going to see where she's running from. By the way, um, this is the male. It's a male and two females. I want to see where the female was heading. And we'll get back to what I said was pretty interesting. She probably just started running for whatever reason. Maybe she was getting some exercise in. But anyways, what you guys will find extremely interesting is that in this area here, we actually have, if we can just stumble across them, sometimes they can be hard to spot, especially since they're small. And I'll explain why they're sharing their proximity with, that's if we find them. I'll explain why they're sharing their proximity with these Spinosauruses. Okay, here's one. So we actually have an Ostroraptor. And if I'm not mistaken, this is, oh man, yes. Wow, so I was just about, that was a male Ostroraptor too. And I was just about to explain that there are Ostroraptors lurking with these Spinosaurus, and that's because these Spinosaurus are known to catch, um, large fish sometimes, large, marine life, large aquatic life, and sometimes they'll bring them on the shore and leave the bodies on the shore. So the Osteoraptors will sometimes stalk those Spinosauruses in order to get an easy meal, or they'll even stalk, other animals like, our baryonyx and our irritators. But I'll be the first to say that was not smart at all for that Osteoraptor, especially without a group. Wouldn't have made a difference with a group, but it was not smart at all for that Osteoraptor to try and take on that fully grown Spinosaurus. It makes me wonder if all of them were trying that. which is why I'm having trouble finding them now. Because as you guys just seen, that Ostroraptor died in one go, one blow. And I was really looking forward to showing you guys more of those Ostroraptors because they are an animal that was recently cloned and recently released into the wild, and in season one of our Site B mode series. But unfortunately, guys, I'm not seeing any more. They could just be hiding. It doesn't necessarily mean there aren't any in the area. They could simply just be hiding, but it's hard to say. So, anyways, guys, this was episode one of season two of our Site B mode series. Um, I really, really hope you guys enjoyed it. There is so much more in store for this series, so much more that we will be getting ready to explore as we're back on the main floors of Isla Sorna. We have our Biosyn animals here. We have some marine reptiles that will be featured in the season now. And we're excited to see how these ecosystems will play out. And we're just excited to be on this journey. So stay tuned. More details of the continuation of season two will be released soon. Thank you.